So our speaker today is somebody that we know well and who knows us well and who comes from a faraway place to join us. And we appreciate that. It gets hot out there sometimes.
Yes.
And her puppy dog have a great source of nature to run around in. Anyway, it's Reverend Joyce Zorger.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everybody. Oh my gosh. After that song, it's just like every one of us we've heard it, we relate to it, and we think about times when we were just in that place of knowing that that amazing grace that saved a soul like me. And my talk is on the winds of grace, and how appropriate that Jan and Nina chose that song. I was hoping that you would choose that song. Thank you. And also the inspirational, yesterday was on grace, and I remember when you did the inspirational, Debbie, that I brought this to read, but I won't read it because you heard it already. Because it's just an interesting. My life has been an interesting journey, and I'll share a little bit of it. I love the expression, the winds of grace always blowing. It's up to us to raise our sails. And when Amanda Sherlock spoke about that a couple of weeks ago when she spoke, it was a quote that she used, and to me, I grabbed a hold of that, and I thought, this is something I would like to explore. And it was an expression used by, if I can say it right, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and he was an Indian Hindu mystic, and he was the one that used that expression. And of course, I always love the Unity, the newsletter that comes out just before I speak, because this one was on grace, and it gave me some material that I could use in my talk today. And I just so appreciate the words that, and I know that you put this together. They may not be all your words, but I know that you can relate to it, and that's why you've chose those words. What does it mean to you? The winds of grace are always blowing. It's up to us to raise our sails. What comes to your mind when you hear that? Anybody have anything to offer? Yes, and Regina.
The Spirit is always there to guide us. We always have everything we need, but we need to ask. We need to be open to it. Sometimes we just shut down and don't allow it. It's there.
Thank you.
Time when we open up.
Thank you, Regina. Yeah. Anybody else have something to offer? Yes, Aliza.
Just let go.
Let go.
Let go.
And receive. Let go and receive. And Bob?
Well, the illustration, the ship or the sailboat, it wouldn't be going anywhere unless it did raise its sails to get the wind.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
we're away in that period of time.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, thank you for your input. Anybody else have something to share that may be different from that? I think we've all probably agree with that. To me, it means that we raise our sails, giving active attention to what is needed now. Active attention. I love that word, active attention, awareness. And there's things that happen in our lives, and certainly in my life, and I'll share a few things with you later, but how I'm aware of how grace leads me on and protects me and shows me the way. I think of basically our sails are our awareness, that we're aware of the grace, the blessings that we receive every day. I have a couple of things that I asked friends of mine. One of them, I'll share with you what she had to say. She wrote a poem about it, and I thought that was very special of her. I put that in my talk today. But I wrote down, our active attention attracts the action of grace by becoming actively attentive and consciously inviting the divine awareness within us and around us to do what needs to be done, what needs doing, a living balance of active attention and receptivity. I think that that's important, to be receptive to all of the blessings that we receive every day. Be conscious of it, and even some of the things that happen that we wonder why this happened when we move through our life, we realize that that was a blessing as well, and we can claim it as such. I think we need to listen to our instincts and listen to our intuition. We are always being guided, guarded, and protected, always, and to know what to do, when to do it, and listen to that still. I like to think of that still small voice within, and that is my source with a capital S. That is my source, my divine, the divinity within me, that presence of God within me, whatever we want to call it, but it's there within each one of us as we move through our life. And I fall back on that often with the things that happen in my life, and I know that gives me strength to move forward. The experience that I'm going to share an experience that happened to me involves my two puppies, of course. Most of you know that raising my two puppies, they're 8 years old now. I've talked about them ever since I've been talking here at church, Toby and Lucy, and they pretty much go by that name, Toby Lucy, because and so anyway, Toby Lucy, those 8 years have been quite a challenge. Just keeping them from getting out together, because when they do, they run off on a personal hunting trip because they're hunting dogs, and they'll be gone for days. That this is their joy, their joy in life, and God is watching over them because they always come back somehow. So a few weeks ago, Lucy managed to escape from the yard while Toby was out with me. So that worried me because then they both got together. But I managed to put Toby in a barn stall and went to see where Lucy escaped from the yard. You should see my yard. I think I told you it's like trailers all around. I have boards and I have hardware cloth, I have zip ties, the whole thing's together. I should take a picture of it and bring it in sometime to show you. It's embarrassing for anyone to see it, but this is what I have to do to keep these dogs in the backyard. And they have plenty of room in the backyard to run and play, but they much rather, there's no gophers in the backyard, there's no squirrels, and there's no wild things that they can chase, that red fox that's been waking me up every night, and them too. Finally, last night, it was just a quiet little sound it was making from a distance. And I heard it, but my dogs didn't hear it because I had the fans going, and I was so glad because I could sleep pretty much, go back to sleep. But anyway, that red fox is still around, and if you ever want to hear the sound of a red fox, go on Siri or Alexa and ask, what is the sound of a red fox? And you'll hear it. It's a scream that sounds daunting, and it really, it scares me when I hear it. I do that every once in a while. And one time I did that when the dogs were around and they went crazy, and I said, I shouldn't do this. They were so quiet. They were sleeping, and I shouldn't have, I wasn't using my head. I was showing my daughter, did you ever hear the sound of a red fox? And so I did that on the phone, and the dogs just went ballistic. So that was my mistake. Anyway, this is what happened. This was a couple of weeks ago. I was checking the backyard fence to see where Lucy escaped. And all of a sudden, I'm standing there looking at where she must have escaped, and a flying object went over my head, just missed my head by just inches. And I thought it was a drone, one of those things that fly around. And I'm looking up in the sky, and it crashed into the rose bushes up on top of my fence, just crashed into that and then disappeared. But I did see a shadow of it, and it looked about that big, just coming over my head. And I thought, what in the world was that? And anyway, I finished my chores. I found where Lucy got out, tried to fix that again. I went down to the barn to get Toby, and his sister actually, right after that thing came over my head, his sister she appeared, and I thought, well, she must have been chasing that drone, whatever that was. Well, anyway, I got Toby out of the barn, got him on leading him up to the house on a rope so he wouldn't get involved with Lucy, brought them into the backyard so that they could get their breakfast. And all of a sudden I heard all this commotion. They ran into the garage and all of this commotion. And I ran in there, and it was a turkey, a huge turkey had flown over my head, missing me. I'll talk about amazing grace, missed me by inches, because those things are big and they don't fly very well. They're very clumsy flyers. And it came sailing over my head, crashed into the rose bush and probably injured itself, went into the garage because the door was open, and the dogs went in there to get their breakfast, and that was their breakfast. you, Mom. Anyway, yeah, that I have to, I have to look at things and find joy in everything that happened to me because I am so glad that it didn't knock me senseless, and that was grace that saved my soul at that time. Anyway, that the winds of grace. Anyway, I am so grateful for having the gift of grace, which was the title of the talk in the what was written up in the newsletter, and I'll read what some of you who may not. I know some of you said they read it, and that was good that you did. I think it was who was it that told me I read that? It was you. No, it was Nancy. Nancy, no. Who told me beforehand? They confessed to me that they read the newsletter. I thought, good, Brian will be happy to know. It was Carol Taronis. Thank you, thank you. So maybe you can support this, what I have to say. I'm reading it to you now. It says, in the practice of new thought, the concept of grace invites us to recognize and align with the higher truth of our being. It is through grace that we understand our connection to the divine, affirming that we are worthy of love, abundance, peace, and I might add protection. And to me, I feel like I'm always protected in the things that happen to me. I didn't even share with you that I was attacked by yellow jackets a couple of weeks ago. So I have a special place at the end of my property. I take the dog, when it's Lucy's turn, I sit on a log because she needs a little more time out than Toby because she's got so much more energy. So I go at the far end of my property and I sit on this log and it's kind of an alcove of oak trees all around it, and I look out at the scenery and I'm so grateful to be there, and I do my meditation. Well, this one particular morning I went down there and the log was moved, and I thought, who would have moved it but a bear? Because we've had a bear around in our property. So with all my strength and muscle, my guns, I pushed this log back where it belonged and sat on it to do my meditation. And all of a sudden, I was swarmed with yellow jackets. And they crawled under my hat. And I had to take all this stuff off. I had a fanny pack on. I had to take that and snap it, take it off, take off my vest, because it was cold in the morning. And it crawled up my arm. This arm is much better now, but it was just awful. And it got all swollen and rashy, and I've been putting stuff on it. That was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And then last week, I was walking across the big field, and I looked down at my, and I like to wear shorts in the summer, it's so hot there. And I looked down, I saw this yellow jacket on my leg, and it must have been biting me, and I didn't feel it until after I swished it off. And then it started stinging, and I realized I was bit in a number of places on my leg, and my leg was swollen. So I've been really enduring a lot of things out there in the wilds, so Feather Ranch. But anyway, it's where I live, and I love it, and I just want to be able to be there and survive the day through grace. Survive and through grace. And if you don't see me for a while, please come out there and check on me. God knows, that bear may have come around. He had gotten in the front door, but anyway. Check out. Make sure I'm okay. I have another paragraph here to read. This came from you got to read this newsletter because you'll find all this that I'm reading to you and you reiterate it. This realization cultivates a sense of spiritual confidence, encouraging us to live authentically and pursue our highest potential without fear of inadequacy or failure. That is something I need to read again and again because I know that gives me strength and know that I can get through my days. A religious science friend of mine, she's a practitioner friend, she was the one that went with me to Asilomar this last July, and she flew out from Maryland, and then we drove up together, but she's not quite my age. She's a little younger, not by much, not by too many years, but she has a new man in her life, and I mentioned to her that I'd be talking about the winds of grace, and she was inspired to write this poem. And she called me to tell me about it, and this is what she said. A new day has dawned, a day full of grace, blessings abound, new ways of being have graced me today. Thank you, dear Lord, for the blessings you have bestowed, and thank you for they have been well received. So it's receiving those blessings, being aware and receiving those blessings. And I thought that was so sweet. And she had a what she called a forever engagement. Forever engagement. They had a ceremony, but she didn't legally marry, but they live in separate places in this complex of adult living. And it's just so special. I mean, she's probably she turned 80 as well. So, life goes on, and we can make life just as, enjoy it as much as we can embrace it, and know that we just, I'm just grateful for each day that we are offered. And I have another friend that we text each other every day to make sure we're still alive. And so she said, I said to her, about what was your response to this, as I asked you? And she said, having to do with forgiveness and giving us things that we don't have to deserve, that we receive them anyway, giving us blessings just because we are loved, and in addition to blessings we deserved. And I think, to me, it's the unconditional love that God is, that we don't have to earn it. It is unconditional. When I was a little girl, I always felt I had to be good, I had to earn it. But now I know that God, that source, the divine intelligence, it's unconditional love that we receive. Excuse me, I take a drink of water. The last few paragraphs of the Gift of Grace article found in our Unity newsletter had this to say: grace shifts our perception, encouraging an attitude of gratitude and abundance. It reminds us that every moment is an opportunity to receive and give love, to grow and to contribute positively to the world around us. And as we navigate through life's labyrinth, and I thought of you, Steve, when I heard that, let us remain open to the quiet transformative power of grace. By acknowledging and inviting grace into our hearts and minds, we align ourselves with a higher frequency of existence, creating a harmonious ripple effect that extends far beyond our immediate sphere. A ripple effect and how we are and how we extend that love that God is that ripple effect that we affect whoever comes around us. I really believe that. We are, our lives are so important here. We're here for a reason, and sometimes we may not know what that reason is, but I believe that love is an answer. Whatever the question, love is the answer. I've heard that before. Whatever the question, love is the answer. Certainly I really enjoyed what Jean had to say about her life and the inspirational that she read, and I could so relate to the years that she, with her husband, and the different decades that she went through and what was going on in her life, and I could so identify with that. And I think you probably all know that John and I were married nearly 64 years, and that to me is amazing grace, because really, truly, because he was an engineer and he thought like an engineer, and he was amazing. He was an amazing man, and I love him very much, but he was not the easiest man to live with. And we did have our roller coaster ride through life, but we learned from that relationship. I don't know if he did, but I learned a lot from it. But he's passed away now, but I feel him around me all the time. I think I shared with you, I walk on my property and I see rocks embedded in the ground shaped like hearts. And I see feathers, because Feather Ranch, and I see a barn owl feather that was just so significant to me, finding it right by the tree where he would always turn around when he would walk, the turnaround tree, he would call it. So I think of them all the time. And one of my favorite songs is Memories Are Made of This, by Dean Martin. And yesterday I was, I turned on, I have a Bose, and I connected my phone, my music to that. And the first song that came on there was Memories Are Made of This. And it sets me into, the memories are, I think that's the grace of aging is the memories that are treasures that we can choose in our mind. We don't have to go down a slippery slope into negative memories, but the grace of God helping us to show us that these are the things that will sustain our life and create love within us and move on. And I believe that this is just one life, that we have many lives to experience, and this is my feeling anyway. I'm having trouble with my voice today because I've been yelling at my dogs a lot. And I apologize for that. They don't realize the grief they caused me, but I am hanging in there, just like the 64 years of marriage that I've you know, you just hang in there and you learn from it. And they're getting very sweet. I hope they someday get to meet Pierre. Yes, Pierre, but maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, I know that the animal blessing would be so nice to be able to attend, but it wouldn't be a blessing if I brought my dogs. Anyway, I want to finish up my talk here by what do I want to say? I want to say grace is not merely a divine gift, but a way of being, an approach to life that elevates and enriches both our individual journey and the collective experience of humanity. I think that was in the. This was such a great article. I love that. Okay, the words of the song, Amazing Grace, that stirs my soul whenever I hear it. I could not just sit there and the emotions that came up for me when I hear that song, and you two do it so beautifully, and I was so glad that I thought of calling you, but I thought, no, they're going to do that song if they have to. But Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. And those are the words in A New Thought. They changed the wretch to a soul, and it makes it a little bit sweeter, not being called a wretch. But okay, so in closing, I especially love the words in the song. "'Tis grace that hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home." And based on all the events in my 86 years of my life, the winds of grace have brought me safe thus far, and may they also be for you as well. May they bring you, be safe and open to the winds of grace, and open to that acceptance of all of the blessings that every day that we experience. So that's my talk. That's my message this morning. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Wow, I love you all. Oh, so sweet. I'm so glad to be here. I really am. Thank you.